So I'm excited to introduce Jim Owen, the SuperAger here today. Jim, do you want to introduce yourself? And thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I don't call myself a superager. I say I'm a superager in training, Jeremy.
And do you want to give us a little bit more background on how this term came to be?
Well, I live in a senior community. I've been here about 4 years. I'm out in La Jolla, San Diego. And we had just moved in, my wife and myself. And what I noticed was there were some people were, let's say, were 60, but they looked and moved like they were 80. And then there were people who were 80 who looked and moved like they were 60. And I said to myself, what is going on? What do these second group of folks know that the first don't know? And that's what intrigued me about this whole idea of superagers. Now, I should explain, I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree in kinesiology. I'm just an ordinary guy. Had a Wall Street background, 35 years. And I wrote a best-selling book called Cowboy Ethics back in 2004. But when I turned 70, I was in awful shape. Chronic lower back pain, overweight by 35 pounds at least. One of the worst parts, Jeremy, was no energy at all. And I came across one statistic that changed my life. I think this was Harvard Medical School did this. So out of a population of 100,000 people, so this is important. This is not based on 10 people from Denmark or something like that. Out of 100,000 population, if you make it to 70, take a guess, Jeremy, how many years can you expect to live out of a very large, tell me statistically, now you may get hit by a truck the next day, but what would you guess if you make it to 70? This is not the same now as somebody who's born who can expect to live. This is if you make it to 70. A lot of people know pass away at 50, 60, whatever. What would you guess the expectation level is?
Off the top of my head, probably 10 to 15 years.
That's a good answer. Statistically, if you make it to 70, you can expect to live another 15 years. So I said to myself and my wife, if I feel this bad now, again, no energy, chronic lower back pain, no energy at all, and so on, how do you think I'm going to feel when I'm 85 years old? And that's what started me down this path of saying, I've got to do something, because I could see myself in a wheelchair or all bent over like, and so that's what started this whole trajectory of changing my life and going from, bent over, literally crying on the bathroom floor with agony. That's how bad it was. And now I just had my 85th birthday last week. I'm now 85 years old. And it's a pretty amazing transformation, actually. But what I want to point out to you, Jeremy, and your audience, there's nothing special about me. I'm a very ordinary guy. I just said, I have to do something. I'm not sure exactly what. So it was a lot of trial and error. And this was not like most things in life. This is not a straight line that goes like this. It was kind of up and down, setbacks. But I hung in there. And now at 85, I feel great.
That's amazing. Well, you look amazing and you have tons of energy. Thank you for being, open about that pivotal moment that changed everything for you, and for opening up about it. How old do you feel now?
Well, there are days I feel like I'm 90. Not really. Jeremy, I have zero pain. So my goal was to, one, get rid of aches and pains. And I literally have no pain in my lower back at all. I've lost 35 pounds. I've gone from 185, 190, whatever. I now weigh 155. But the main thing is I've taken that weight off and kept it off for over 10 years now. So a
That's
lot of people
amazing.
lose, yeah, a lot of people lose weight, but gain it back in 1 or 2 years. So I've been very lucky. And I work out an hour a day, 6 days a week. And that's obviously part of it. But there's more to life and living than just working out. I'm not a muscle hound, and I'm really into more practical. I'm not a bodybuilder. There are guys that can bench press a lot more than I can. I'm into what we call functional fitness. That's just simply meaning being able to do my day by day activities without aches and pains. That's all it means.
Totally. For those new to your work, how would you define a super ager? Is it purely physical, or is there a mindset component that people tend to overlook?
Boy, you're asking the right question. I didn't know the answer. Now, and again, let me go back to it. The scientists will give you one answer, and they usually talk about cells and this and that. The way I do is simply observational. Here's what I observed. In my T-shirt, if you can see it, says it all. It says, getting old, living young. So the characteristics, it's not that they can bench press 200 pounds or swim the English Channel. Those are outliers. And oftentimes when you see people that are doing amazing things physically, they're outliers. But the ordinary person seems to be somebody who has that sense of humor, positivity, the glass half filled. It's really hard to pin down one thing. But what I will say is this, and I spent more time than you would believe interviewing. I interviewed probably 100 plus super agers, trying to find the common thread. Some of them eat dessert every day. I don't, but some do. Some exercise in a minimal fashion. But what they all have is something, it's like a zest for life. There's a positivity that they seem to have. Is it natural? I don't know. But I will say this. I personally think that being a superager is 90% mindset. It's that glass half filled. Life can be an adventure if you choose. So it's just a choice that people make. Again, I live in a senior community, and I would say if there's 100 out of 100 people, there are probably 10 who are what I would call superagers. But for every superager, Jeremy, there are 5 or 6 people, same age, who get on a treadmill, they may walk, they may do something or other, but they don't have that something, that spark. And I'm just intrigued by it. But the scientist, how do you measure joy? How do you measure happiness? How do you measure passion? How do you measure a zest for life? Scientists don't know how to do it. And that's why they measure things. They study primates, believe it or not. How do rats react to this or that? I guess that I'm not a scientist. I just look and see, what is it that gives people that spark? Is it DNA? Well, Jeremy, cutting it short, I'm convinced myself, right or wrong, it's about 90% lifestyle. It's a choice that you make rather than I don't believe for a second that any of us are victims of our DNA. I don't believe that's true. Now, a doctor may say, oh, Mr. Owen, you're wrong. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I think you choose to live this way. and you make a choice and say, I believe at my age that life can be an adventure, but it's up to me to make it. In other words, you control your destiny. And Jeremy, I need to say this to you. This is not about, we're not talking about longevity. We're not talking about if you do the following 3 or 4 things, you'll live to 100. I don't know anybody where I live. I live in a kind of an upscale senior community. I've never met one person who said, Jim, I want to live to be 100. Most of them say, I want to live. It's not about it's about lifespan more than anything else. I want to live a good life as long as I've got my reasonable health. And when I don't, I can look back and say it's been a good life. I'm ready to go. And I've lost some very, very dear friends who I would like to have kept them as friends for 10 years, but what wasn't meant to be for whatever reason.
Right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Clearly a big part of all this is the consistency. You say you work out 6 days a week. You say you always see things glass half full. What kind of mechanisms or strategy do you use to stay this disciplined and not rely on motivation or a bad day to kind of throw everything off?
Well, in my case, and your audience, if somebody in your audience is, up in years, maybe they're 65, 70, 80, there are two things. One, it's never too late to get started. So don't think, oh my gosh, I wish I'd heard this story about SuperAgers, when I was younger. No, I started when I was 70. And there is no quick fix. There's no magic wand to it. There's work involved. And what I said was, here's my goal. I set a goal. I swear it's true. When I was 70, I want to be 80 years young. And then I said, okay, that's my goal. Now, what do I have to do about this? Well, you have to get a game plan. Then you have to make a commitment to yourself. And then I told other people. That means I was accountable to myself. Absolutely true. But other people had the expectation. I just didn't want to let them down. Now, Jeremy, it's important I tell you, I don't know of anybody who's 80 years old or older who doesn't have one or more serious health issues. I've got one. I don't talk about it to anybody except my wife, but I've got a serious health issue. And but we all do. The question is, what are you going to do about it? So much of this stuff is in your head. My great fear at 70 was the fear of aging. Aging to me meant getting weak, getting no energy, and so on. But it also meant that my best days were behind me. That was the worst part. So it's the mental part for me that was the most difficult. My best days are over. And now if you ask me, Jeremy, I would say, honest to goodness, my best days still lie ahead. I've written a best-selling book. That was when I was a little bit younger. But then when I turned 75, I wrote a book that National Geographic published. They had never done a book like this before. It's called JUST, Just Move. And book's done real well. Now, I would have sold a lot more copies if I'd been Brad Pitt or George Clooney, but I wasn't. So exercise fitness books don't sell that well. But I started doing documentary films. And my first one was carried by PBS on 100, I think it was 120 stations maybe. And the second one was about SuperAgers. Would you believe you caught me at a time? I'm just wrapping up my third film literally this Friday. To do these it takes about 2 years for me. But I'm very focused. I'm a creative guy. And my attitude is work on what you can control and don't sweat the rest. So I'm not a computer guy. I'm terrible at mathematics. So I have a long list of things I don't do very well. But what I do well, I can focus. I can't multitask, but I have almost I get an idea. I'm a creative guy, and that's my biggest strength. I have if it's going to be, it's up to me attitude. And so one of my sayings is create, don't compete. And that was true in Wall Street. I wasn't the smartest guy. Uh, I didn't know more about picking stocks than the next guy. No, but I had a creativity, and I also could see the big picture, which I think has helped a lot. I can see the big picture, always could. I'm a good communicator in terms of writing. I don't know about speaking like this, but I'm a good communicator in writing at least. And I also like education. And the reason I'm doing films is that emotional connection that you can make with a film that you simply cannot make with any book that I've ever read. I've read a gazillion books going back when I was a kid. And but I'm in the film business for that reason. My job, I'm a man with a mission, Jeremy. I want to inspire people to say, I believe that old age can be an adventure if I choose to make it so. And even though I may have a problem, the problem is not going to defeat me. I'm going to stand tall, and I'm not going to say, oh, woe is me, my life is over, I've got this or I've got that. And Jeremy, this is typical of superagers. Don't think for a second that they don't have medical issues. They do. But there's some strength of character, is it? I never could figure out quite what it was. But they look at life with a sense of humor, good nature. Um, there's a group, my wife and I used to live, we've been married 57 years. And
Congratulations.
I wouldn't put up with me for 1 month. My wife, we're both little kids from Kentucky. I'm from Lexington. She's from Owensboro, Kentucky. We've been married 58 years and 2 adopted children. And it's been an amazing ride. And without her, I don't know, I'd be lost, I'm sure. She has all the charisma. She's the connector. I'm not. I'm kind of a shy person. But she's a real connector. She walks in the room and she just lights up the room. And but I've got a creative side, and that's kind of what I fall back on. And the other strength I've got is I can always turn a negative into a positive. I've done that my whole life. And most people, when they're faced with a positive, they tend to kind of get down themselves, oh, why me? And they kind of go moping or depressed. That's not me. And,
Totally.
I'm into, say, Jim, what are you into now at 85? Well, my latest theme is winning at life. And that's what it's all about. It's not about making the most money. It's not about being a big shot. It's not about controlling other people. It's about winning at life. And I think that's what I hope other people think about. At the end of the day, with your last breath, can you look back and say to your family, your friends, people that you care about, who care about you, and say, I'm ready to go. It's been a good life. I like to think I've been a good father, good husband, and a good friend. That's all part of winning at life. And even though I've had setbacks and things happen that I wish hadn't happened, I've disappointed people, I'm sure, in my life. As my wife says, Jeremy, you don't get stress, you cause stress. And I guess that's true. But when I get focused on a project, I can't help it. I can go to bed at 11 o'clock and wake up at 2 o'clock and work to 4 and go back to bed and wake up at 6 and back working. I've always done it that way. So
That's right, coming from your Wall Street background.
Yep. And I guess you could call me a competitive guy, but not really. I compete against myself, to be honest about it. And I don't do things to impress other people. I but what I am in to now, Jeremy, at my age of 85, really, and not just words, but every day, I make it a point to do small things that kind of make people smile. I open doors. I'm from the South. I like to think I'm a gentleman, Southern gentleman. Maybe I try to be, but boy, that's a nice jacket you've got on. Can let me hold that door for you. It's so funny how that makes me as happy as it does the recipient. So I do small things like that every single day. If I'm at the grocery store, I'll say to somebody, "You've got fewer packages than me. Why don't you go ahead?" And they say, "What? Are you serious?" So we live in a very selfish world. It's all about me, me, me. And I think the people that I know and respect as real, true friends are people who care about others in a meaningful way and who don't just say the words but actually mean the words. And that's where I am right now. I won't be any more fit. I used to do sets of 50 push-ups. I can't do that anymore at 85. I really don't care. I mean, I don't want to hurt my shoulder or something because I'm on an ego trip. So it's not about a big ego. It's just about here's where I am in my life. I do have some health issues. We all do. But I'm not going to let that deter me or slow me down or in any way interfere. And all I can say is uh, when I do have when I do feel bad, I know one thing for sure. Compared to other people, I have no problems at all. And I live in again, a senior community. I've had some dear, dear, dear friends who I've lost. And it wasn't their fault. They just, for whatever reason, they worked out, they were in good shape, they ate right, died of a stroke or heart attack. Now, why? I don't know. Nobody knows. Were there things that they didn't talk about? Perhaps. But I think life can be good when you look at the world that way. So I'm a very positive guy, very upbeat. I have a long list of things that you might call negative. I can't do computers at all. I hate mathematics. Like a Luddite. But
Right.
what I enjoy, Luddite, what I do enjoy is being creative. And I
Yeah.
know thing if it's going to be, it's up to me. So I believe in giving 110% to whatever I'm doing. And that's probably what separates me from a lot of people who are a lot smarter, more clever than I have no doubt there's a slew of them out there. Do they give 110%? I don't know. I
Well,
do.
you're very humble, and I appreciate you addressing several of the misconceptions about aging, that you wish everyone, regardless of their age, understood. You mentioned something about the art of aging well, which was your first wellness documentary that aired on over 100 PBS stations. What is one story or feedback from that film that surprised you or changed your own perspective on aging?
Oh boy. We have a we had this past tense, a neighbor who the doctor said, I give you at most 2 months to live, maybe 3 months, but no more than that. And I had him watch this film, and there were people who were happy and they were exercising and laughing with friends. And I said to him, how does that make you feel? Do you feel sad? Do you feel resentful? Do you say, why not me? I'm just really a wonderful guy. He said, Jim, I don't feel any of those things. I've had a good life. I'd hope to, because of my family, my wife, and my kids, I hope to have lived a little bit longer, maybe just because of them. But looked at me and said, I've had a good life. I feel lucky. And if tomorrow's my last, I make every day. I think of every day, he said, it's my very last day. And that means I try to live my every day to the fullest. I said,
That's
wow,
amazing. Yeah.
that's amazing. I'll never forget. I think about him all the time. And I also think I never one time heard him, oh, I feel so badly. Oh, don't you feel sorry for me? He said, Jim, I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. There are people much worse off than me. He had he was in what you call it 4-stage cancer. And the doctor said maybe 2 months, no more than 3. And he said, I have no regrets. It's been a good life. I feel bad leaving the life because of my wife, and she's has her own health issues, but she also has a lot of friends. And boy, when you hear a story like that, you realize how important real friendships are. Not not acquaintances. I have 50 acquaintances. How many real friends do we all have? In my case, just a handful. That's all I need. Somebody who
Totally.
hmm,
And you
I don't
describe, sorry, go ahead.
know. And so I'm a person. I'm kind of a quiet person. I don't have that. My wife's the outgoing one, and I mean, I wish I had that in some ways, but I don't. I have my own strengths, and I have a long list of weaknesses, and that's the truth. But I do know one thing. Uh, I'm at the age of 85. I'm not trying to get more fit. I'm trying to keep whatever strength I have, but in my heart, I really am working to be a better husband, better father, and a better friend. And I try this every day. If you ask my wife, she would say, you have sure changed in the last couple of years. I said, well, maybe I've grown up finally. But I think we all have a selfish side, and we all kind of get caught up in what we're doing. And I'm just somewhere else right now.
For
But I
sure.
feel blessed. Every night before we go to bed at night, every single night, we say thank you, uh, and we share our gratitude for the life we've had, our relationship, which is everything to me. Without my wife, I don't know what I'd do, to be honest about it. And but you have to work at it, and that's what you learn. We talk about wisdom. Well, one thing that you learn when you get older is you have to work at it, whatever you're doing. It's not easy. It doesn't come to you naturally in some cases, but you have to work at it.
Right.
But my wife and I have a very close relationship, and we're closer now. And a gentleman doesn't tell how old his wife is, but she's having her 85th birthday in November, and we're
That's
closer
amazing.
today than we were the day we got married. That's all I can say. It's been a wonderful, wonderful ride.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You describe a shift from providing information to fostering inspiration, and you call it bridge the inspiration gap.
Mhm.
How do you design your messaging or films to cross that gap? For example, move people from I know I should do X to I want to go and do X.
Well, typically what we do, I mean, first of all, Jeremy, I believe in heart of hearts that it's through film that you can make that emotional connection. And I've always said to myself, not to other people, I've never said this, I don't think, in an interview like this, but I'm actually in the educational business. But beyond that, I'm in the inspirational business. And one problem that most older people have. They become very, very skeptical, and rightly so, because so many people are trying to sell something. And I'm not talking about me being holier than thou. I'm not a personal trainer. God knows I don't want to be a life coach. Just a very ordinary guy. But but the reason I tell my story is I honestly believe if there's nothing special about me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But you have to want to do it. You have to be disciplined about it, and you have to be accountable to yourself. And I've had people say, "Oh, Jim, I know Jim's in great shape. He works out. I work out too."
Yeah.
Well, if you're walking on a treadmill at a very slow pace while you read the newspaper, I see this every day, or watching television, I don't think that's working out. I
I
think you're
agree.
done something else. So when I work out hard, but I enjoy it. And by the
Right.
way, I started off walking, and any of your listeners who say, okay, I listened to Jim's story, but he hasn't said how do you get started? Try walking. And I walked, uh, I said, I'm going to do a 30-minute walking contest with myself. And I walked for 30 days. That's what I did on day one. And the first day, Jeremy, you won't believe it, I literally could not walk 3 blocks, city blocks, without, I'm worn out. And this second week, a little bit better off. At the end of 30 days, I actually felt so much better and I looked better. And one thing that changed my life, so to speak, and my wife's life is that when I turned 75, my wife, again, a little kid from Kentucky, her mom said, horses sweat, men perspire, women glow. And they would not let my wife, when she was a teenager, even be a
Yeah.
cheerleader. She said, nope, that's not for ladies. So she was not working out at all. And so one day he was on the phone with a friend who said, Jim used to be a couch potato, which I was, sitting 10, 11, 12 hours a day, no exercise at all. Now he's gone from a spud to a stud. And my wife laughed. She still laughs thinking about that. And then she said to herself, if I want to keep this guy, in my life, I'd better start working out.
Yeah.
So we started working out, and would you believe, Jeremy, now she is as into it as I am. And it's not about lifting heavy weights. It's not about bodybuilding. No, it's about being physically active, doing things you enjoy. If you enjoy bicycling, bicycle. Enjoy swimming, swim. But there's
Right.
tennis. You don't have to go to the gym. We have a gym membership, but and having a workout partner sure does help. Stanya and I love to. We live in La Jolla, which is I'm not on the beach, but the beach is nearby. I can see it uh, from my apartment. Uh, we walk on the beach, hold hands like little teenage kids, and we just love it. So being out in nature is part of it. And the other thing I want to mention about superagers, they seem to get out, be outdoors. None of them, they don't seem depressed. They don't seem like down the dumps or, oh, woe is me. They like other people. Uh, I
Right.
can I can remember so well we lived in Montecito when we were younger, and they had a thing called the Craft Club. And these were very distinguished senior citizens. And you say, what does Craft Club stand for? It stands for can't remember a effing thing. So these guys would have lunch once a week. There were like 8 of them, and they'd come home, and their wives would always say, "What were you all talking about? You didn't you stayed to 3 o'clock in the afternoon." What do you think the guys would tell their wives? I can't remember. So having that sense of humor, about being older, I think, is a big, big part of it. And the super agents who I know personally and buddies with, they have a sense of humor about, I can't remember my name half the time, or I, if I could just remember how old I was, they just kind of laugh about it. So
Yeah, yeah.
having that sense of humor goes such a long way when you're older. Not taking yourself too seriously, and I just think I see this as an adventure. So every day to me is like a new adventure. What can I do today that I didn't do yesterday? Maybe I can do a better job today. So
Right.
to me, aging is an adventure. It can be for anybody. And so that to me is what is it, super ager? Well, as I said, getting old but living young. Jeremy, how do you measure heart? How do you measure joy? So the doctors don't know how to do this. I read there's a book just came out about called SuperAgers, and I tried to read it. It was all about medical stuff, and I read about, I don't know, 10 pages and said, this is not for me, because how do you measure what's really important in your life? The passion you feel about something. I've got a good friend of mine that was an exercise nut. He exercised 7 days a week, had been doing it for, I guess, 30 or 40 years. Incredible. And out of nowhere, Jeremy, he had an open heart surgery out of nowhere. So what do you think he's doing now? He's younger than me. He's taking up painting. He's pretty damn good. I had no idea. So what I'm saying is, it's find that passion, find that something that excites you. And everybody's different. It may be cooking. It may be a pet. It may be, it's amazing. So many people where I live have animals. They have a dog. They have a cat maybe. And that dog is part of their life. And they treat it like a child, which I think is great. So getting older sounds like, it's all downhill. It can be downhill. And the reason that some people get depressed, early Alzheimer's, is because something may have happened to them in their life, something that they just couldn't face. This is emotional we're talking about. It's not rational, it's emotional. Maybe they lost a loved one. And of course they grieve. You would think you would expect them to grieve for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I would grieve over my wife to the day I was buried. But you just can't cut yourself off from life. You have to say, okay, I can grieve, but still have a life. And I see this every day. And I so admire people that do this. And on a quiet moment, they'll say, I'll say to them, boy, you must miss whatever his name is or her name. And they'll get tears in their eyes. I miss them every day. And I always
That's
will.
very good advice. Yeah.
Life has to go on. Otherwise, you're just sort of giving up on life.
Right.
That's what you don't want to do. That leads to depression, leads to early Alzheimer's. And so when you live in a senior community, you kind of see it all. Where I live, I'm very happy to say there's a level of activities that's astonishing. Now, I don't do yoga. I don't do Pilates. I don't do Tai Chi. But there's a woman who's 95 years old that does all three of those. And then what do you think she does in the afternoon? Listens to music. She'll listen to music with a pianist. I'm going, wow. She's 95 years old. Now, is that an outlier? Why I don't know. But she's got that something that, I call it a spark. There's a SPARK. There's a spark that the super agers seem to have. And where it comes from, I still don't know. They don't take themselves too seriously. They think about other friends. genuine friends. My wife has got friends that go back 50 years, back to college maybe, and I think it's wonderful. And they still communicate. So it's not about acquaintances, it's about true friends.
Totally. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know you and your wife, Stanya, work out together and often collaborate.
Yep.
Can you tell a story about how your partnership has evolved through this journey of aging well? Have there been challenges, adjustments, or breakthroughs unique to doing this process together?
Well, Jeremy. That's another great question, and the answer is my wife got into it. Now she's got some issues. I don't want to go into them, but again, there's no one who's 80 years old that doesn't have something. If it's not arthritis, it's something, your back, it could be anything. Um, but what she has found is that when she works out, I guess it's the adrenaline rush, some chemical reaction to working out, and we have more fun. And I will always congratulate, honey. You're you're doing so well. I can't believe it. How your form is perfect. And she'll say, well, you don't think I'm a little bit this? No, no, no. Just keep it up. Don't worry. But Jim, I just feel like, honey, believe me, your form is better than 95% of the people who are 50 years old. And so we both kind of compliment each other about that. If I'm ever tired, I'll say, honey, I just don't feel like working out. What do you think I do? Oh, go take a nap? Nah. I'll say, okay, I'm just going to do a 20-minute workout. Jeremy, I've never one time done a workout where I felt I have no energy. I didn't feel better when I finished. And the
Right.
20 minutes, well, maybe I'll do 30 minutes. Let's do 40 minutes. And
Totally.
so I do little snacks throughout the day. I'll do stretches as she will. So we make it fun. It's not, don't you get bored? No. What's boring about feeling more energy? So we both have become high energy people as far as working out. I do strength training. Again, it's not bench pressing 200 pounds. No, just doing the best I can. And she's the same way, and we get a real kick out of it.
You
And
look
so,
like you could bench a couple plates, though.
well, I don't know, but it's been a wonderful experience, and it's not a grind. We're genuinely happy, and I love it, Jeremy, when the young people, the girls, usually women, say, Mr. Owen, how do you all stay married? How did you do it? And I said, well, I just do what my wife tells me to do. And I'll just smile. But she says, I just listen to my husband. So we just kind of joke about it. But the truth is, we have a relationship that we work on it now. It's not like you can get by without working. And we are unselfish with each other, and we genuinely have each other in mind. But it's about the heart. How do you measure heart? I don't know. Maybe you can do it. I don't know how to do it, except to say life's about heart. If you have the heart, it's not about how much money you made. It's not about what kind of a car you're driving, and it's not about. I don't think it's about what school you went to or what you did professionally. I just think it's really about heart. And if you've got that heart, anything's possible, and you can deal with life. And when life throws you a ringer, and you get something bad thrown at you, you're able to overcome it. So the resilience, all of that stuff, to me, comes from a positive mindset. Again, I'll repeat what I said. I personally think this whole thing is about a positive mindset, and that anybody can do it. And somebody who is one of my friends here has fought cancer, late stage cancer, for 2 years. And I can tell you, I'm not that strong. She went through 2 years of chemotherapy, has lost all of her hair. She's still cheerful. I know it sounds crazy. She still smiles. She's cheerful. One of our neighbors down the hall, just had a terrible thing happen to her stomach. And she laughs. She just says, boy, it's not easy to have this. I said, are you going out? Oh, sure, I'm going to go out. Well, and her husband, older than she is, but she has a smile she has a killer smile. So older people who don't take themselves too seriously, who look at the world like it's opportunity, it's positive. Uh, Not only it's not living longer, it's living better. Like a lot of people my age that I know, they don't care about living to 100. Now, some Wall Street guys do. I guess the guys in California, Silicon Valley, and I want to live to 120. Why would you want to do that? All your friends are dead, and who do you have left? Nobody except you. So to me, it's a very selfish thing. I want to live as long as I'm healthy. If that's 2 years, that's fine. If it's 4 years, that's fine too. And when I'm no longer healthy, I hope I can go like this and not suffer too much. But I've had broken bones. I've fallen. I've had the same usual things that anybody has when they get my age. But I still
Right.
got that sensitivity.
Well, thank you. You've launched multiple acts in your life. Wall Street, Cowboy Ethics, and now SuperAger Advocacy. Looking back, what internal narrative or core value has remained constant throughout all these reinventions?
Well, the one that I can think about is, again, mention it, create, don't compete. So I compete against myself. So on
Right.
Wall Street, there were guys who were so much smarter than me. It's almost embarrassing. And yet I could always see the big picture, always. And I could always turn a negative into a positive. My wife just laughs and says, how the heck did you do this? I don't know. I just took a negative and said, it's like right now I'm winding up my third a film. And I said, why would you do that again? Well, the government cut back on money to PBS. I figure maybe the time is right to say to PBS, gee, do you mind if I have a sponsor? I'm assuming they would say, no, no problem. We're not going to pay you. We can't pay you. But if you want to get a sponsor, fine with us. And you can mention their name, but I'm not selling anything. I'm just saying, I think people need to hear this message. And my goal right now is to get this message out. And Jeremy, that's why I'm so grateful to you all for what you're doing, because I think you all are reaching an audience that's really critical. And I think older people need to hear an encouraging word, need to hear some positivity, need to hear somebody say to them, look, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's never too late to get more fit, never too late to improve your health, but you have to want to do it. And you have to have a game plan. You have to be accountable to yourself. And I've always been accountable to myself, and that's not going to change. So I guess I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but the common
Yeah, it's a great answer. Thank you.
I'm just if it's going to be, it's up to me. That's kind of how I think about this. Nobody's going to do it for me. My best buddy can't do it for me. My wife cannot do it for me. I have to do it myself. But
Right.
I don't mind that, and I don't mind the pressure. Pressure doesn't bother me. Jeremy, I'll just share one quick story with you. I cannot multitask. Maybe it's ADHD. I don't know what it is, but my whole life, I kind of do one thing at a time. And so most people that I know can juggle things. My wife can juggle stuff. I just can't do it. I say, honey, let me finish what I'm doing, whatever it is. And when I finish, you're next. So I keep track of everything I eat. It's all written down what I eat. When I work out, I exercise, I write it down. I put my weight down. I write everything down. And that seems to help me looking back and seeing what did you weigh 2 months ago? What did you eat, 2 weeks ago, that kind of stuff. So it just keeps me straight and keeps me honest to myself. So I'm trying to be authentic in my life, and I can't say one thing and then do another. I I wouldn't sell my soul for money. So I'm not out there hustling for money. I'm a man on a mission, to be honest about it. My mission is to tell people it's never too late to improve your health. And if I can do this, anybody can. That's my message. And also, I should also say to you as a young person, it's never too early to start thinking about your health. What can you do now? Because
Right.
if I started my health program earlier, I wouldn't have had to work as hard. But I didn't. I started at age 70. That's pretty old.
Right. And look, aging is obviously deeply personal, while at the same time being universal.
Hmm.
Was there a particular super ager in your film whose story moved you emotionally more than you expected? And what did their example teach you about your own path to aging?
Well, it's very funny you should say that. I had a partner in the business world, and he was in the film, and he when he was 18 years old, he won the. He was an incredible athlete. His father was a football coach, so I guess he got the genes. But when he was 18 years old, he won the Southern California decathlon for all boys who entered the contest, 18 and under. I've never known a guy as athletic as he is, and he's now 2 years younger than me. And his first wife passed away tragically years ago, and his second wife, whatever reason, I can't explain this, it just didn't work out. And he was alone and feeling pretty down and depressed. And he doesn't get depressed. And just by chance, he lives in Denver, and Jim met a lady who had been his college sweetheart. Can you believe this? She had been married, and her husband passed away. So they remarried, and you've never seen a happier guy or gal than those two. So then, he's in his mid to late 70s. She's about the same age. And they're like two little high school kids, and
That's amazing.
it's amazing. And what I learned about this is it was luck. He ran into her. And he said, "Are you who I think you are?" And she says, "Jim, how long has it been?" He said, "Well, we were both students at the University of Denver. That must have been, I don't know, 50 years ago, whatever it was, 60 years ago, I guess it was." And he said, "I haven't seen her since." And we got together, and now he said, "We are just joined at the hip." And what that brought home was the idea of joy and the element of luck. What if they had not met? He just met her by chance, and
Yeah.
had never seen her again. And that's the role that luck plays in life. And so it just reminded me uh, how the role that luck plays in life, and accidents happen to people, and lives are changed, and awful things happen. But somehow, if you've built that resilience and strength of character, somehow you can get through them. That's all I know. I've lost some dear, dear friends, and it just pains me to even think about it, but also smile to think of the good times. So all of this, you kind of wrap all this stuff up, and it just tells you that, ain't life wonderful? And if you want to be negative and say, "Oh, life's horrible, everybody's nasty and mean," and me, I choose to think the other way. And I don't like, by the way, Jim, I don't like being around toxic people. I don't like being around negative people. And I should tell you, by the way, I used to love to read the newspapers. Well, I watch at most 1 hour a day, and that's it. I got better things to do than follow what the president's doing or what some congressman said to somebody else. It's not that I don't want to be educated. No, I get better things to do.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. There is a lot of good advice in everything you said, and there's one more question
Sure.
that I have for you. But I also wanted to thank you very much. As a SuperAger, a best-selling author, a movie maker, you've done a lot of amazing things, and we appreciate everything that you're sharing with us here today.
Jeremy, again, I'm a SuperAger in training because it never
Right, a
stops.
SuperAger in training.
In
It's a
training,
consistent
it never stops.
pursuit. Right. Looking ahead, what is your next frontier or question you still want to tackle in the becoming a SuperAger mission? Is there a medium, an audience, or a theme you haven't yet explored but would like to?
Well, I mentioned the theme earlier, and the theme is winning at life. And I'm really big on this. And I have been for a while, but this new documentary film that I'm just literally winding up, if I'm lucky, this Friday. Again, I'm a producer. I would say, what does a producer do? Well, the producer has the vision. I always have a vision. He hires the people, uh, uh, controls the quality of the work, and does the money side. But I don't get behind a camera. But uh, I'm very, very interested in this winning at life. And in my own case, I want to encourage other people to think about this. Jeremy, are you winning at life, doing what you're doing? If you were in an accident this afternoon, for example, would you look back on your life and say, it's been a good life? I feel like I've won at life or not?
Right. Yes, I think in my case, I think a lot about what it is that I want first and then figure out how to get what it
That's
is
it.
that I want.
Yeah.
I spend a lot
Yeah.
of time on that first part.
Well, I think that's what makes you a good journalist. And when I told you about your questions, I've never been asked better questions. And I think you have a real talent for this stuff. And I just implore you to keep it up because what you're doing is not, uh, well, it's very rare. Most journalists today, I wouldn't call them journalists, frankly. Uh, they're advocating something or they're against something, but they're not really journalists. And I think what you're doing is pretty amazing. And I'm honored that you all would take the time to talk to me and hear my story and my trajectory. And it's been an interesting 15 years, starting when I was 70. I'm 85, and my life is, I hope there's still some years left in me. Uh, we'll see. But either way, it's been a good ride. And as I said, I can guarantee one thing: I will be focused, and I will give 110% to whatever it is I'm doing. I guarantee you that. In addition of feeling gratitude of how lucky I've been to have my good health, to have my family, to have my friends. Jeremy, I've been a lucky guy, and that's how I feel. That's not. I hope that doesn't change. I'm not bitter. I'm not cynical about the world or people. No, I'm very optimistic about people in general. And when somebody is a negative person or just sort of a downer, I just try to avoid them, to be honest about it. So,
Well, You don't need me to tell you this, but you have a lot of wisdom, and I'm very grateful that you were able to share that with everyone else. You're incredibly humble. You've lived through a lot of things that are rare, yet hopefully doable by a lot of people. And I think you really insist on that point. You have incredibly unique and powerful takes from what you've personally lived. That is advice that is applicable to most, if not all. And we really appreciate you being here, Jim. We're honored to have you. And thank you very much for your time today.
Well, again, it's my honor. I'm humbled to be. I'm genuinely humbled that you would find my story of interest and so on. Again, I don't feel I'm that special a person. I just kind of do what I do, and hopefully I do it well, and hopefully it. But I am a man on a mission. I do want to tell my story to people who are struggling, and I guess that's really kind of where I am right now. And a lot of people are struggling, and if I can help even one person, I'll look back and say, "That's I did that. I helped that one person." Thank you, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.